What's going on YouTube? This is Mark with WAISTDEEP Wade Fishing, Southwest Florida. Just want to say hello to everybody out there. Again, thanks for tuning in. And it's about that time of the month for the WAISTDEEP Wade Fishing, Southwest Florida Wade Fishing Report. So we're going to go ahead and start it up. Right now, fishing has been a little weird lately. Some of the areas that I've been going to for the past 3 to 5 years, some better than others. Some fish are there that are supposed to be, some fish are not there at all, and there's a couple of reasons for that. So we'll get into that right now, but for the most part we'll start with the areas and then I'm going to tell you what's going on. So before we begin, again, hats off, thanks for everyone for liking, subscribing and sharing. And let's go ahead and get started. So, wade fishing spot number 1. We'll start it off. Burnt Store Sandbar. One of my favorite places in the world to go. Right now, from the reports I'm getting, they are getting tons of redfish on the inside of the sandbar, along the first trough, on the low tide. Usually this time of the summer, there are not a lot of redfish out on that sandbar, but for some reason they're out there feeding heavily. Just got a report a couple of days ago that a gentleman was out there and got 25 redfish, all on artificials, all by himself, just basically drifting along the sandbar and fishing on the inside into that trough on the low tide. As the tide was coming in, the redfish bite tapered off. There was a couple of snook that have been caught there, nothing over 30 inches. Most of the big snook right now are going to be on the beaches, but we'll get to that. Excuse me. So, now as far as against the bushes, that's where I like to fish. And normally in the summertime, I don't really head out to that sandbar. There's a lot of sharks out there. Along the bushes, they're getting smaller redfish, and not the numbers that they're supposed to be. For some reason, those redfish are staying more out to that sandbar right now. Now this is pre-rain. The last couple of days, all this rain just started here in Southwest Florida, so that's going to change everything up. Up to that point, that water was pretty much gin clear. But all this rain and wind is going to muck up that water, and I got a feeling all those redfish that were up against that sandbar are now going to be inside. The trout bite is slowly starting to pick up along the sandbar. It was really good up until it started to warm up. Now the trout are not there. There's some trout on the inside, in between the grass line, the mangrove line and the first sandbar, in the potholes, and it's littered with a couple of redfish as well. But if you're looking for redfish and you're wade fishing or you're on the flats boat, get out to that Burnt Store Sandbar, fish that first sandbar, the trough line where it drops off from 3 to 7 feet, all along that drop off and that trough line is where those big redfish are going to be, and a few of them on top of the sandbar as well. They're getting them on live bait. They're getting them in the morning. He said that, well, not just him, but a couple of reports, a couple of top waters, first thing in the morning, if you've got a dead low tide and it's going to start to come in, and they're getting them on, of course, jig and soft plastic, and a variety of different plugs, mirror lure plugs, saltwater assassins on a jig head, jerk shads. The majority of the colors they've been using is green, silver, black and gold, and kind of a sandy brown color. Those are the colors that have been working. So if you head out that way, great. So as far as Burnt Store Sandbar, that's what we got going on for there. The next spot that we're going to talk about, another favorite spot of mine, the Bokeelia Grass Flats. Now the Bokeelia Grass Flats, in the wintertime is littered with redfish. I mean, it's the best redfish spot, I think, period, around this way. But right now, as the water has warmed up, the trout are there. A lot of small trout, in between 12 and 16 inches, and I'm just getting them on an 1/8 of an ounce jig head on the on the lower water, and moving up to a 1/4 ounce jig head, chartreuse, silver, and red, throwing a chicken on a chain, mama's chicken, saltwater assassin, DOA, purple and gold, and then of course I'm using a new bait that I've started using from a sponsor, from Red Alert Lures. It's a salt and pepper with a gray back and a white bottom paddle tail, and it's 4 inches, and they've been working as well. And I've been using them on the Texas Rattler jig heads, Rockport Rattler jig heads, and DOA jig heads. As far as the spoon's been going, I've been throwing them, no luck. The Reds haven't been tearing them up. I'm going to be heading out there after these storms slow down a little bit, and we're going to start throwing a different variety of plugs, especially the Paul Brown Fat Boy. We're going to be using those and see how those redfish like it. So far for the report, a couple of snook here and there, in between 30 and 40 inches along the grass flats from the beginning of the flat after the first dock, following all the way around to Jug Creek Shoals. So you can walk that whole flat, and it's about, I'm going to say about a mile and a half, and you could probably walk out on a dead low tide about 30 to 40 yards from the shore on a dead low. On a high tide, of course, it's the summertime, so there's a lot more water coming in. On a dead low tide, fish the potholes. On the dead high tide, you want to fish along the mangroves and close to where the water meets the mangroves into shallower potholes, especially if they're shaded. Our temperature now, every day is 95, 97, 98, heat index 101, 90% humidity. So if you're out there after 9 o'clock and you're still fishing and you got a good tide working with you and some cloud cover, try to fish those particular areas around it that are producing shade on the high tide. As far as redfish and snook, the spot is producing, but not big numbers. Trout is starting to pick up. So we're going to see after this storm, again, that water was gin clear, but I didn't see a lot of bait on the flat. So we're going to see what happens over the next week, and I'll put out another report and a couple of videos and see what changes have been made since we've had this big storm. Moving on to the next spot, Mount Lachey Bridge. Of course, it's the norm. Snook on the incoming tide, off the bridge, throwing flare hawks, any heavy type of swimming jigs, plastic swim baits, throw them along the pilings, along the bumpers, in the shadow line, along the bridge from the light posts. And those snook are going to be lined up like salmon. They're there all summer, and they're there right now. Next, let's move to the beaches. Got reports down by San Carlos Pass, or Big Carlos Pass, I should say, that on the point, aka the ledge, the trout bite is really starting to pick up. The water was not silty. I have not been down there after this couple of days of the storm, so I don't know what it looks like now. But early morning, first light, walking the beaches on an incoming tide, as that water, I'm going to say a quarter of the way of the tide in, when that trough has about 2 foot of water in it, walk up and down the beach, throw parallel to the water inside of the trough, and you're going to find big female snook, anywhere from 30 up to 40 plus inch snook up and down that trough line. Heading over to Sanibel. Of course, the Sanibel Pier is well known. Nighttime for snook, fish the shadow lines, flare hawks, jigs, swim baits. But what you want to do if you want to go ahead and walk the beaches where the big breeding females are going to be in the trough lines, head out by Lighthouse Point, walk around that beach. You've got about a 4 to 6 mile stretch of beach that you can walk. Get out there at first light on the incoming tide parallel to the beach. Make sure you've got, if it's a sunny day, make sure you've got a good pair of optics on that are polarized so you can see them, all the fish, and see all the females lined up in the trough line. Throw anywhere, I would say throw soft plastic DOA shrimp is a good pick. Any type of small bass assassin, 3.5 inches up to 5 inches, jerk sheds, paddle tails. If the water is clear, try to keep similar to what's around there in the pilchard color, greenback, silver body. Don't go crazy. If it is muddy out there, then try to go with some darker contrast colors. Maybe go with the electric chicken or the Mardi Gras color. Golds, silver and black, always a fan favorite. So yes, snook are definitely on the beaches right now, and they'll continue to be on the beaches through the summer. So we'll look out for those big females, those 40 pluses. Moving on to the next weed fishing spot, the Sanibel Flats. Right now, very, very tricky. Water is excellent. There's not a lot of bait. Early morning bite, not that good. 5 to 10 trout in between, I'm gonna say 10 inches and 16 inches. A lot of small trout, good to see. No redfish whatsoever. Couple of sharks here and there. No summer flounder. There are a lot of puffers in there, so beware. If you are throwing soft plastics, they are gonna get chewed up. Again, waiting for after the storm. Gonna go back out there, walk the flats, and see if that brings in any snook or redfish. I haven't had the right tides to get out to that sandbar because it's been too deep. But we do have the full moon coming up, and again, a week before the full moon and a week after the full moon is usually the best fishing of the month. So next week there's going to be a lot of fishing coming, and I'm sure you're going to see a lot of videos of me catching snook, redfish, and trout. And then moving on to our last spot, over at Tropical Point Park, over in Pine Island. There's a flat out there. The grass is actually was starting to come in this year. I just got a couple reports. It's a kayak launching spot. It's part of the Blueway. It's a kayak launching point. Well, if you go there, park your car, and you walk out about, let's say, 10 yards, there's an actual flat that's maybe the size of a football field right there, straight in front of you, and there's a drop-off where it goes from waist deep to almost neck deep on the high tide. So if you can get there on low tide and start working it onto the incoming tide, they are picking up some trout. I have no reports of snook and a couple of redfish along the bushes. As far as Pine Island, redfish everywhere. They're still all over. They haven't left, from Mount Lachey all the way up to Two Pines, and from the other direction of Mount Lachey going all the way out to St. James City. If you can find the oyster bars, the sandbars, and on the incoming tides, work. Creek mouths, work. The mangrove lines where you have the deep holes, you'll be able to see them. On a boat. It's not really, you can't really wade out there. And this is kayaking and boat fishing if you're working Pine Island. But yeah, if you're beating up the bushes, look for that. Tons of redfish out there. And then last but not least, the West Wall. If you are kayaking, of course, it's a well-known place. It's infamous for big snook. The West Wall, the south side of the wall, not the north by the cattle docks, then the south side. Get there on a low to incoming tide. On top of the sandbar, they're getting a couple of tarpon here and there. On the inside of the sandbar, around the first trough line, the first deep trough, they're getting snook and again redfish against the bushes as the tide's coming in, and they're getting them on live pinfish, greenbacks, aka whitebait, mirror lures, some top water in the morning, she dogs, she pups, in the bone color, also in the blue and the chrome, and then the next bait that they said they were getting them on was the oh my goodness, I forgot the name of it. Oh, jeez. It's a saltwater assassin. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the saltwater assassin. DOA, an electric chicken. That has been the color of choice on the west wall over the last 2 weeks. I've been hearing nothing but, throw electric chicken, throw electric chicken. And that's kind of like the chartreuse and orange color. So with that being said, that's going to be pretty much the end of the report as far as wade fishing in my part of town and what's going on as far as redfish, trout, snook, and tarpon. I want to say thank you to everybody. And I got a little promotion that I'm doing. So basically, if we can get 10 new subscribers and 100 likes off this video, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send out a pair of head, neck, and face protection neck gaiters. I'm going to send out a pair, these two right here. I will pick a random winner from my subscribers if we can get those likes and those subscribes up to 100 likes, 10 subscribers. Okay, guys? Well, this is Mark with Waist Deep Wade Fishing, Southwest Florida. I want to thank everyone for tuning into the video. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Catch tons of fish. Please like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. And make sure to leave a comment and to continue to give me info on what you want to see and hear.